Hello, welcome. This is the Paper Horse Media weekly recap. Basically, Paper Horse Media is an online equestrian publication, and the weekly recap is where we take you through all the major stories we've done this week and anything else we can think about telling you. This week is a short week. This video will not be very long. We basically are just talking about WEF Week 12. WEF is of course now over after that exciting finale last weekend, which is going to be the main focus of this video, but we'll talk you through what led up to that a little bit, tell you where you can find out more, and a little update on the polo that was supposed to happen last weekend. So let's get into it. So as I say on the topic of polo, last Sunday we were supposed to have the USPA Gold Cup final. This is now going to happen next Sunday. It will be top billing as Pilot takes on La Dolfina Scone. 10-goal Argentine cousins Perato Cambiaso and Hedda Castagnola will of course be pitted against each other, so that should be a pretty interesting game, and we'll no doubt be covering that next Sunday. So that will probably be in next week's weekly recap, and the story will of course be on paperhorsemedia.com. For this video, you can find the links to all the stories we talk about in the description, so head down there and check that out. So first we covered Richard Vogel's win early last week to kick off Rolex Week. He set the tone, taking on new competitors in the 5-star 1m45 class. This was of course riding his horse Michael Jackson W. Richard said Rolex shows are the pinnacle of the sport. This after Richard won the first major show in the Rolex Grand Slam of show jumping, the €1 million Dutch Masters CSI 5-star that he won with United Touch S. So he's arriving back in Wellington after that, and there are of course other international riders who have arrived in Wellington for Rolex Week. So if you want to read more about them, we do have some on that in the full story. Not going to get into it here. We're going to instead move on to the Challenge Cup this week. Shane Sweetnam won the Week 12 WEF Cup Challenge with Corian von Klopschut Z. This relationship between Shane and Corey seems to be staying strong after Shane broke his drought with a win beside Corey in November of last year. Anyway, the Irishman said any win in the WEF Challenge Cup is a big deal. This win was a big deal as he topped a stacked field of 60 combinations, many among them new riders who arrived for the Rolex Week finale. He finished first of 2 clears in the jump-off, just nudging Germany's Richard Vogel and Claudio into second. There's of course a lot more detail on that Challenge Cup in the full story. Again, we're going to just keep moving. And that class, of course, served as a qualifier for the Saturday Night Lights last weekend. And Shane, of course, would also compete in the Rolex Grand Prix, this time aboard James Can Cruz. Of course, we move on to the big story for this week, and that is, of course, the WEF finale, the $1 million Rolex Grand Prix. So we had 6 of the world top 10 riders in the class, minus, of course, world number 1 Scott Brash, but still very competitive regardless and very exciting for the 10,000 in attendance. Designer Guilherme Jorge set up a particularly tricky course, a very competitive course, a course with no free jumps according to Ben Mayer. Its defining feature was a rather troublesome wall jump second on the course. This wall would claim a number of riders early. Unfortunately, the wall claimed Christian Kukic and Checker 47, and it ended their story of winning 3 Rolex Grand Prix in a row here at Wellington International. The wall wasn't just troublesome for the riders, but also the jump crew, who had to rebuild this kind of tricky top row that had a list of locations of the Rolex series worldwide. So we think they did their best getting them in order, but we wouldn't be surprised if one wasn't, just for the sheer number of tiles that they had to align there. So that struck us as a little bit confusing, but nevertheless, it certainly made for an exciting finale there. Of course, Kent Farrington took the win after what he admitted he thought was a pretty competitive effort on his part. This was the first 5-star win of the year for him and his partner Greya, but it was also the win that broke the USA's drought at the Rolex Grand Prix. Ben Mayer actually came second after starting off the jump-off and setting a pretty impressive pace. Kent, of course, managed to shave that time down slightly. But the fastest was actually Richard Vogel in third, with a time of 42.87 seconds. But they just tapped a rail on that last fence, unfortunately. Still a very competitive round for Richard and his partner Gangster. Richard said he was proud of his horse Gangster, who was right there with him the whole time. He just said that he should have done one less stride on that final fence there. So that rounds out the podium with 3 of the world's top 4 riders. And interesting enough, their podium order actually represents the show jumping world order. So we thought that was pretty cool also. So that's everything for the weekly recap. Pretty brief. So we just want to thank you guys for watching. We're loving the support on the videos. That's been great. It's been a lot of fun making them. We hope you guys find these videos helpful. Just in case you can't get over to the site, you still know what's going on. There will, of course, be another video next week. But check out our publication. Check us out on TikTok for more short form summaries of the articles. And other than that, we'll see you next time. Thanks. Have a great week.